Minor league headlines and big league promotions here to talk about on the call up. You got Jack McMullen. I'm Aram Layton. We're going to kind of check in on a few different things through the minor leagues, but I think the focus of this episode is going to be the big league call ups we've got, because we've got a few pretty notable ones. Guys getting back to the big leagues that hadn't been there for a little bit, and also guys making their big league debut, one of which you're going to be able to see from that Wrigley press box.
Yeah, I'm sitting here getting ready for one of them. Mo Baller is going to debut. He's the DH. It seems like it's Hap on the IL. Suzuki's going to be left for the foreseeable future. And Cubs have a new designated hitter, which answers literally zero questions that we have about Moises Ballesteros.
Exactly. And that's the funny part is, I mean, their catching situation, it was really interesting being at the game yesterday. And thank you for inviting us up to the press box. That was pretty cool to see from the Wrigley vantage point there. It's a pretty unique view.
I'll say Aram is a very like, oh, this is lame. He's like, he just kind of exudes that every day where it's like, is there a moment? Like, he was at the Miami Grand Prix and was like, this is stupid. This is a dumb sport.
I stand by that.
He sits here at the radio in the visiting radio booth at Wrigley Field. And like, I actually saw him take his phone out in video. I was like, oh, so he does have like a heart. Let's go. That's big.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that was just for you to have to look back on, you know?
Yeah, it's like, oh, wow, something I did made Aram moderately happy.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, It was really cool to see you there. That was a really cool moment. And I think recently, just being able for you to check off some of these really unique press boxes or broadcast booths, I should say, has to be pretty cool. I'm literally looking in the reflection of your glasses right now, seeing Wrigley Field. And you might as well show for the people on YouTube, just flip that baby around. Like, those are the ones where it's really got to hit you. And I just being able to go up there yesterday with you, it was cool to just kind of see it from that vantage point. But we didn't know at the time that you were going to get to see Moises Ballesteros from up there. And yeah, it doesn't answer a single thing for us because the question is still around the glove. And we mentioned in passing, I think a couple episodes ago, how Ballesteros was like 1 for 23 on throwing runners out. He has since improved a little bit. I think he threw a couple out. So he's gotten himself into that like 12 to 13% range in the caught stealing department. That's a big shift. Like if you can just hang around just 15%, that's passable. So it'll be interesting to see that side of things, but we're not going to really find out because being at the game, as I was actually originally going to get to, is seeing Carson Kelly's slash line on the board there at Wrigley. Like, that guy's Barry Bonds right now. So you don't really need Ballesteros to catch. And Amaya had 2 doubles. Yeah,
Amaya had a 3-for-3 day with a pair of doubles down the left field line. Like, it was one of those catching situations where you look at Carson Kelly's slash and you think, okay, he's only played 9 games. That's not the case. No. Carson Kelly out of nowhere is doing this for a month and a half. So shout out Carson Kelly. They have a really good timeshare going on. Ballesteros, doesn't this kind of feel like a Band-Aid on an IL stint for Ian Happ?
Yeah, it does. And you know what? I think it's still one of those situations, though, where it's totally fine. I think you know that Ballesteros is probably going to go back to AAA once Happ is back, and great, he'll go catch more. But we've talked about it. The bat is so far ahead of the glove that this is a guy that can get big league ABs, get back to AAA once Happ is back, which could be a month. I don't know how long he's expected to be out, but and then at that point, you have a little bit of an idea of what to expect at the big league level, at least on the offensive side of things. Because again, the bat has been ready. The guy, his numbers are ridiculous. Yeah. 34 games, he's slashing 368, 420, 522. He's got an 8% walk rate, 11% strikeout rate. The guy is very, very ready offensively. So Cubs are trying to win the division, right? You got the Cardinals all of a sudden as hot as anybody in baseball on your heels. And you want to keep that offense churning. And especially against right-handers, think you're better off with a Ballesteros in the DH spot and then, a Carson Kelly catching instead of, I think, what was the last game? We had Amaya catching and Carson Kelly in the DH spot. So
yeah,
it's not to take away from Amaya, who's been great, but like Ballesteros is a chance to be an all-star level bat. The problem is, where do you put him defensively? We still haven't figured that out. First base, we wondered if they were going to mix in some reps there. He's only played 1 game at first base this year, and a reminder that he would be, I believe, either very close to it or the shortest first baseman in big league history. So that's another challenge in this whole equation. To me, it really seems like it's fringy defense, and at best, it's probably well below average defense at catcher and DH. is probably the situation here. And fortunately for the Cubs, they only need his bat right now.
Right. And you know what's exciting? Like, to your point with it being putting their best foot forward right now with Ian Happ on the IL, it's also just a vibes call up. Mm-hmm. If they called up somebody else to just be a bench bat and all of a sudden you were seeing more ABs for a Nicky Lopez or some other guys that have been plugging in at third base like John Birdie, that would be one thing. But for them to go grab maybe their top offensive prospect is a totally different thing. And I think that is signaling from Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins that this Cubs team is willing to try and put the stranglehold on the National League Central in the next 2 weeks, in the next 3 weeks. So as soon as the Cardinals go away, the Cubs want to make this division or their division to lose after the All-Star break. It was interesting. I know Casey did not start out of the gates. Like, he was not healthy on opening day. Casey's been swinging it well. Ballesteros has been swinging it better. With Happ hitting the shelf, Casey being on the 40-man, I was sort of kind of expecting Casey to get this call, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, that was another interesting aspect of it too. And I was wondering if it would make more sense to plug him in immediately. But again, I think it kind of screams towards the Cubs' desire to ride the hot hand right now and try to put their best foot forward. Casey's hitting the ball really hard, but he is striking out 36% of the time through the first 26 games. Again, late start, I think, doesn't help, and he has been cutting that down a little bit more of late, but I think they don't want to put Casey in a spot where then, okay, he's just starting to get right, and then boom, you're going to be facing big league pitching and making the biggest adjustment of your life. So I think for someone that can plug in and has the best chance to hit the ground running, it's probably just a natural hitter like Moises Ballesteros. But I have a question for you then. If Ballesteros rakes, what do you do here? Because I don't think you have a choice but to then send him back down. And it may be moot, like he might just be solid. But what if he is fantastic? Like, what do you do? Because having him in a part-time role coming off the bench is not good for his development when you're still hoping to develop this guy as a catcher who's still just 21, right? Like, it may take another year or two, but if he can get himself to be a 40-grade defender, it's like kind of the Agustin Ramirez conversation. Of course, Ramirez a little bit more athletic, but the point being, if you can get him to a 40-grade catcher, the bat's going to carry, and you want to get him there. So what do you do if Ballesteros this is a very real scenario, because like Augustine, he rakes, and I would say he's even more natural of a hitter, and that's not an indictment on Agustin Ramirez whatsoever. What do you do if Moises is raking?
The joking answer is you ask Carson Kelly if he can play third base. The real answer is probably something similar to what we see with the Marlins right now. You have a 3-catcher timeshare of Fortes, Hicks, and Augustine. You probably get that with Kelly, Amaya, and Moises Ballesteros. Now, Ballesteros will probably not catch much at the major league level. And I also think you can justify Amaya not getting everyday at-bats. That's the thing. Among a trio, you need to justify someone not getting everyday at-bats. And like, Nick Fortes is kind of that guy right now for the Marlins. You need Augustine in the lineup every single day. Hicks is swinging it well, so it turns into a who's hotter situation between Hicks and Fortes.
Yep.
On the Cubs side, you need Carson Kelly in the lineup every day because, like you mentioned, he's Barry freaking Bonds. So then it turns into, well, Ballesteros, let's try and get him in the lineup as much as possible. How can we utilize that DH spot? The problem is when Happ comes back, you have an everyday DH in Sayak. It's a much harder conversation to have, and the benefit that the Marlins had is they didn't have a clear-cut clogging DH.
Yeah.
The Cubs do in Suzuki. So, I don't know. It's going to be a really hard decision. I'm not saying they're hoping that Ballesteros doesn't rake, but even if Mo Baller doesn't have, like, if he's OPSing 820, I still think they send him down.
Yeah,
the only way they don't send him down is if he's hitting like Agustin Ramirez and he has a 970 OPS. And then you try and figure some stuff out.
Agree 100%. And the last thing on Ballesteros is historically been fine left on left, but I think in a big league scenario here, you probably just deploy him more against righties. And you look at the numbers even in the early going this year. Against righties, he has an OPS of like 1,033. Against lefties, it's 716. By the way, he still is hitting 325. It's just the power is not totally there. So they can also just kind of put him in spots to succeed there. Maybe pinch hit for him later in games when an Amaya can go and maybe get that lefty. They can mix and match, which I think is going to be advantageous to them. And the other aspect of it too, and I don't know if they're willing to move a Ballesteros eventually anyways, but if he shows well here for a month and a half, and the Cubs are trying to win a World Series here, like, and I know they're going to try to push the chips forward, especially with the pitching being beat up and everything, and the way the offense has been. It only helps Ballesteros' trade value if he shows that he can get up to the big leagues and not be overmatched, because that would quell some of the concern, because like we've always said, he has to mash. That's why he's 80 and not 20 on our top 100 list, because for him to get to 3 WAR, he has to be a top 30, 40 hitter in the game, which he does have the upside to do offensively. And he's just 21.
And I wonder what that trade would look like if they do end up moving a Ballesteros, or if they end up moving a Miguel Amaya. I don't think they would be moving Amaya. I definitely don't think they'd be moving Kelly this year, just because he's so cheap and he's on a 1-year deal. And Ballesteros, you have so many catching doubts that you probably don't want to move Amaya. If it was Ballesteros, it would need to be for a big fish. And I have no idea who that person is. Like, I'm just looking around the American League right now, and things just haven't formulated to the place where
No, not yet.
If Houston's trying to get out of Framber Valdez's money on the back half and they don't feel like they can win a World Series, you don't need to add much more than Moises Ballesteros for Framber Valdez.
No. But that's kind of the area where I think it could get fascinating. And he's going to be a really good potential chip for them. But also, I think they're in a great spot where it's like, we don't need to move him either, because a lot of teams would like Owen Casey. A lot of teams would like Trianto. So Kevin Alcantara. So they're in a good spot there. But a guy that I know they will not move in any circumstances, and in fact, he looks like he could be helping them at the big league level, already is Cade Horton. And I don't know how much you watched of that big league debut against the Mets, but I thought he was really impressive. And I know some of the conversation around it was like, Horton, was 4 innings, 3 runs. There was 1 homer that did a good portion of the damage there, but no walks, 1 hit by pitch, and 5 strikeouts. I think a big part of it, though, in the conversation, I think that the Cubs were having after, I forget who said it, but it might have just been the manager, but was, hey, he saw that his stuff is going to play up here. And not that Horton maybe had any questions about it, but it's kind of like seeing one go through as a jump shooter, right? Like, you're a great shooter, but once you see that first one go through, then you have that confidence of like, okay, I can attack. And he attacked. And that's what I liked the most. And he got beat a little bit, but overall, I think you saw that, like, that stuff, him healthy, a healthy Cade Horton has the stuff to punch out anybody in the major leagues and to overwhelm hitters and potentially, be a number 2 starter. So I was really impressed with the Horton debut. And I think this is huge for them that he's 1, healthy, and 2, looking a lot more like 2023 Cade Horton.
Yeah. Now, I just worry because his heater was 96, 97 in his major league debut in New York on national TV. We saw Cade last year before he went down with that injury be about 93, 94. I wonder if that adrenaline starts to go away a little bit after the debut and 96, 97 becomes 93, 94 again. I don't think it will. I think he'll be either. 4 and 5. I feel, as weird as it sounds, it's such a fine line. Like, I feel really good about 5. I feel less good about 4, and I don't feel good about 3 out of his hands.
It's funny. We talk about it with it's I think disproportionately affects different pitchers and different types of guys. Horton, I think the velocity is really important. The cut ride guys, and I know you could say, oh, well, Justin Steele. I think it's a little different with lefties, but with Horton, I do think that cut ride plays a lot more effectively at the higher velocities. It's the same conversation that we'll have, I think, at Chase Burns and things like that, where he's even higher on the velocity standpoint there. But it does matter, and I will say, I think that velo is just back because he's healthy, and that lat thing is done with for now, and hopefully he's able to stay healthy. But you look at the velocity, even prior to that debut, he's been averaging 96 so far this year in AAA. So 94.3 in 2024, and in 2023, he was sitting back right at that 96 mark. So it's great to see him right back where he was. But I think you bring up a good point, is as he builds up more and more innings this year, because remember, he didn't throw much last year because of the injury.
Well, and his career high is what, 88 and 2/3?
Sorry, what was that?
His career high is what, 88 and 2/3?
Yeah, it was 2023, where they already, if you remember, had some measures to limit his inning output. So I believe that if you include the postseason outing from 2023, he would have been at 98 in the 3rd innings. If you include 2 postseason outings. But yeah, so you are right on the number there. He's shoved in those 2 postseason outings too, by the way. In 2023, it was 10 innings of 1 run ball, 11 Ks. But it looks like the velo's back. And it's tough because, I think we always imagined Cade Horton kind of getting brought up and being like, oh, here's our high upside, potential frontline guy that's going to be filling in as our 4 or 5 starter because we're trying to, win now. Whereas now there's a little bit more responsibility being placed on Horton. And it's nobody's fault necessarily. It's just the way that it's gone health wise. But I mean, there's a legitimate case that by the end of the season, given where they're at health wise, and you assume Imanaga's back, but Horton, there's a world where he could be your second best pitcher by the end of the year. And I don't think that's being too prospect bullish.
No, they're getting into the postseason. I'll stamp that right now. The Cubs are a postseason team. Just watching them play 9 innings of baseball with my own eyes and then watching them on TV so far this year, this offense is going to make them a postseason team. They're figuring out enough in that bullpen. Like we saw Daniel Palencia yesterday. That guy throws fuel. I'm so glad that he's getting his opportunity in the big leagues. It took a while. It was a lot like Estrada, who just for some reason took a weird long time. But there is a world where Shota starts game 1 of a DS and Horton starts game 2 of a DS.
Yeah.
And Ben Brown starts game 3 of a DS or Matt Boyd. I don't feel great about anything after Shota. Cade because he's a rookie, Brown because he can turn into a one-pitch pitcher, and Boyd because I just don't know. I can't believe in 92 for some weird reason. But
yeah. I like Boyd as a regular season guy. I know he threw well in the postseason this past year, but I don't know. It might just be one of those things where I'm just not going to trust it, and he's just going to keep proving me wrong. But I'm with you there.
Sorry, Jameson Taillon, for not acknowledging your existence.
Yes, yeah, but we got another regular season guy. But I think when you look at the Cubs, though, that third pitcher or that second pitcher might be a guy that they end up acquiring.
Yeah. Can I also ask real quick why everybody making their MLB debut, they give a jersey 2 sizes too big? Cade Horton looked like he was 18 on the mound because of the jersey size. This is a big physical dude that throws the ball exceptionally hard and exceptionally well. Why do we make him look 20 years old? Same thing with Jackson Jobe when he debuted. He's a filled out person, and they make him look like a little leaguer because they give him a jersey 2 sizes too big.
It's just playing it safe. They don't have the exact measurements in time. I don't know.
Sure.
That is bizarre.
I saw Palencia is still listed at 160 pounds.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. That's the thing. If they're going off of the minor league listings, you'd think that the jerseys would be way too tight.
Yeah, with the Starling Marte special.
Yeah. Yeah. Next player, guy that we've already seen at the big league level, but glad to see him back up again for another team that's trying to compete this year is Jordan Lawlar.
Yeah.
And Lawlar, another kind of health situation, right? Where it's just he's been so banged up at points the last couple of years that he hasn't really been able to fully string it together. And this year, full healthy offseason, gets himself right, and I think improved upon a lot of things this year. He's elevating more consistently. He's driving the ball hard to all fields, and the Diamondbacks call him up as he's red hot. Understandably, Reno, great place to hit. We're not going to doubt that. But 336, 413, 579 is good anywhere. 22% chase rate is great to see. That ground ball rate dropping again is huge. And a 45% hard hit rate. And I think that's the big key there. He is consistently hitting the ball hard right now. And you pair that with his speed, and he's going to help this team win ball games. The other side that I like is that strikeout rate, down to 22.5%. It's probably not going to be every single day, but I think there's a lot of different ways that they can get Lawlar into that lineup. And I think he's playing, for you fantasy players out there, wondering how much you could probably get him. Actually, you're gonna have to check your lineup all the time and check the Diamondbacks lineup, but I think he's going to be playing 4 times a week. And I think they wouldn't be bringing him up if they didn't feel pretty confident that he's at least getting 3 starts a week. And then, he's going to be your first guy off the bench, especially against lefties. He's historically been great against lefties. He's going to be that pinch runner for you. But in terms of starts, I see at least 3, maybe 4 starts for him a week in that lineup.
Okay, so where? Because to be honest, how much is he going to play? I don't see a path to playing time for Jordan Lawlar. And I'm just going to walk you through the lineup as it stands right now. He doesn't play the outfield, right? Did he get any outfield reps in Reno?
No.
So the only guys with a sub 100 WRC plus in that lineup right now are Alec Thomas in center at 97, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. at 76, and Gabby Moreno, the catcher, at 81. So you look around the infield, Naylor is playing first base, Lawlar doesn't play first. Pavin Smith is the DH, You're not going to take Pavin Smith out. He's got a 167 WRC plus. Ketel Marte's playing second. He's Ketel Marte. Perdomo has a 138 WRC plus. He's one of the NL leaders in WAR.
Yeah.
And then Gino has a 112 WRC plus right now at third base. Like, if those guys are healthy, they're playing every day. It sucks because obviously I didn't want to see Lawlar in AAA for the entire season, but I don't really understand how he's going to play enough to justify this, especially when you have a guy like Tim Tawa, and I'm coming around on Tim Tawa. This guy's a league average hitter right now. It's a 99 WRC plus. He's hitting the ball out of the ballpark. He can play the infield. He can play the outfield. There's a utility piece already here. So I'm thinking, if somebody's going to play 3 days a week and you've got somebody replacing the ABs of Garrett Hampson, why not give more to Tawa instead of giving Garrett Hampson ABs to Jordan Lawlar?
I think you're going to give Garrett Hampson ABs to Tim Tawa, and now Lawlar is leapfrogging Tim Tawa because there's a little bit more versatility there. And then now Tawa will be the guy that can plug into left here and there when you want, and then be that bench, that true bench piece where I look at
real quick counter to that. Tim Tawa so far this year has 85 plate appearances, and he's been there since pretty much opening day. And you've got Eugenio Suarez with 171 plate appearances. Can you stomach an 100 plate appearance difference between a starter and Jordan Lawlar?
That's the tough part. I think if you're trying to win ball games right now and you feel like you're putting your best foot forward with Lawlar being, a guy coming off that bench, I think you're going to have to roll with that. It seems like they're load managing Ketel Marte, who's basically getting like 2 days a week off. That's now reps that I think go directly to Lawlar. So I think you find 1 to 2 starts a week for Ketel Marte in that way. Or excuse me, for Lawlar in that way. Pavin Smith doesn't see lefties that often. So that's another way that you can maybe make this work, where then Marte slides to the DH spot for those games. And then, so you don't have Pavin go left on left. And then that's another game where you can then spot start, a Jordan Lawlar. I think here and there, you could give Gino Suarez a day off. He's kind of Iron Man. I know it's kind of nuts. Like he's very available. It's an underrated aspect of Gino Suarez, by the way. Actually, let me just totally digress here for a second. Gino Suarez, can I just give you games played by year?
Yeah.
Starting in 2016, 159, then 156, then 143, then 159. 2020 was 57, 145, 150, 162, 158. And then that brings us to this year.
No, he doesn't need a break.
Yeah, I don't know if he needs a break. He is 30 though. So maybe every couple of weeks you give him a day off. But I mean, your counterpoint is fair there. Like, there's a real scenario here where you're finding maybe 2 starts a week at second and maybe a third when you give Pavin Smith the day off. I think where he's going to get those at-bats is against the lefty starters, where then Pavin is not playing, and maybe it's eating into some of the Grichuk reps, because Grichuk was kind of that automatic short side of the platoon guy that you were plugging in. Now it looks like, okay, lefty, we don't want Pavin has like 11 plate appearances against lefties this year. So I think it's going to be those scenarios and then the load management days for Ketel Marte. Even with that alone, that's probably 3. You can get 3 starts a week there. And then you probably figure you're going to be able to rotate him into games, and he's getting at least, the way the Marlins have actually done it a lot this year. Like even at Dane Myers at points early in the season, wasn't getting a lot of starts, but at least he's getting 1 to 2 ABs off the bench and at least, able to see some consistent reps.
Yeah, I could see that happening where like you use him as a late game substitution. You see a lefty reliever. Mm-hmm. I feel bad for a top prospect that's just going to come in and face like the top lefty. It's like, hey, you're seeing Vesia here. Go get hot, fella. But if that's where the ABs are, that's where the ABs are, and it
makes them better.
Yeah, it makes them better, and I appreciate Mike Hazen being willing to make them better because they feel like there's nothing left for Lawlar to work on at the AAA level. That's the thing. Like, Ballesteros, it's a Band-Aid because there are still some things for him to work on in AAA. For Lawlar, there's literally nothing. It's just a matter of there's no everyday playing time at the big league level.
I think that's the great wrap-up point there is he doesn't need everyday reps at this stage anymore because he needs big league reps. And I think this is the Diamondbacks signifying that, hey, we don't need him to show us anything more in AAA. All of the adjustments that we wanted to see, getting the ball in the air more, driving it to all fields, hitting the ball harder, getting that chase rate back down. He's doing all those things. So we wanted him to help us try to keep pace with this wagon that is the National League West. And
Yeah.
he's going to help them do that, whether it's playing 2-3 times a week or one and coming off the bench a lot. But I think they're going to try to nestle 3 in there.
Yep.
We're going to get to a few more call-ups. We got Tim Elko, actually, is the last call-up we're going to discuss, and then some pitchers that are absolutely shoving before a quick little hitting heat sheet. But before that, first break. You and I were also in attendance for the Tim Elko first career hit, 3-run shot at the big league level. Unfortunately, it was off of Sandy Alcantara, who was holding his own up until that point. It was cool to see, though. You take the Marlins broadcaster hat off for a second there. Elko's a guy that you could tell the dugout was very excited for, a 26-year-old rookie who just, I think, defied a lot of odds, where I think a lot of people just said he's going to strike out too much. He's going to strike out too much. He's not, maybe not even worth the look. And I mean, the White Sox are at a point where anyone that's got power is worth the look, but it was cool to see him have that moment. And again, see, the team get so excited for him. He's 1 for 6 to start his big league career with the White Sox with that home run, but he has only punched out once, for what that's worth.
Yeah, it's legit. There's an absurd amount of pop there. Like, I just watching him take batting practice, I didn't realize also, by the way, we've got a group tour at Wrigley singing the 7th inning stretch. Can you hear this?
You can't hear it. Can't hear it.
You can't hear Take Me Out to the Ball Game?
Nope.
It's hilarious. They just have every group sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And it's 1:57 Central Time, and the game's not till 6:40, which is great. At the old, all right. Now that I'm not distracted by that anymore, absurd amount of pop here for Tim Elko, and just watching him take batting practice. There's no wasted weight on that frame. Like, you think, oh, big guy, he's gonna look like Daniel Vogelbach. He looks like a mini Judge. I mean, it's all muscle, and he hits the living crap out of the ball. And it was a curveball about knee high from Sandy, and Elko went down. That was not an A swing from Tim Elko. It was just a long meet the barrel with it, and he shot it about 5-7 rows deep in left center. He's going to hit the concourse at Rate Field, guaranteed Rate Field. At Rate Field. He's going to hit the concourse, which is what we've seen Eloy Jimenez do in recent years. It's what we've seen Luis Robert do in recent years. And Luis Robert, obviously a much better all-around athlete. He's a Gold Glove caliber center fielder. Elko doesn't really have any defensive value whatsoever. But from a sheer power perspective, this guy can put up distances and EVs that are on par with Luis Robert.
Which is why I think he's worth a look for the whole season. I mean, I don't, unless he gets his doors blown off, I think he's worth the look, because I do think there's a big league role here. Is it every day? Maybe not. But the power, it's plus raw, to your point. 90th percentile of 109 miles per hour, hard hit rate north of 50%. But we've talked about him in the past as a guy that could absolutely handle the short side of the platoon and just be a massive power bat that you have just mash against lefties. And I know he didn't have those like favorable lefty splits last year, but I think that's going to show itself more at the big league level, where I think sometimes he just gets beat by velocity a bit, but he hits breaking balls pretty well and has this year. And you look at what he's doing against lefties, small sample, but he has an OPS over 1,000 against them this year. So, I mean, he has an OPS against over 1,000 against everybody so far this year because of the way that he was swinging it at Charlotte. And this is a guy that has definitely improved against breaking balls. And I mean, the fact that he's crushing sliders the way that he has in the early going this year, and now you add the big league homer, 11 homers in 33 games. Yeah, it's worth a look for a team that is desperately looking for power bats. And I'll be honest, man, like, I'm watching Andrew Vaughn play out there. I would much rather see what Tim Elko can do. And I understand that there's a chance he's worse than Andrew Vaughn, but there's also a chance he's better. And I don't see anything changing with Andrew Vaughn at this point.
Live OBP check on Andrew Vaughn. It currently sits at 225. On base percentage. I'm not talking batting average. His on base percentage is 225. Yeah. We'll check on that as the season unfolds.
Yeah, let's roll the dice on a Tim Elko, and I think they're going to, which I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
Few other notes before we get to the hitter hot sheet. Jonah, Tong, and Nolan McLean. We talked about
McLean, whatever,
the other day. So how much do you want to credit the Mets' new front office and David Stearns for maybe unlocking more out of their pitchers versus just the fact that Jonah, Tong, and Nolan McLean may just be fantastic arms that are just blossoming on their own as well? I think McLean is more of that. You can credit like the scouting find and things like that. Tong, a little bit before. I think he would have been drafted before Stearns took over. Yeah. But are they taking another leap because of the new pitch lab and the things that they're doing in New York, or I guess trickling down from New York, or are these just two really talented guys that are hitting their stride now in like their second full season?
Can it be both? Like, can I give you that high school English teacher combination of both? Yes. Like, I credit to the Mets for number one IDing these guys, whether it was the Billy Epler regime or the David Stearns regime. Credit to the David Stearns regime for helping these guys level up and fine tune, whether that be the pitching coach in Binghamton or in Brooklyn or the director of pitching that kind of helped optimize everything. But Tong is succeeding because he's doing Jonah Tong things, right? That fastball is unfreaking believable. And McLean, we're going to make that mistake his entire
all the time.
Career. McLean, he is like, what this guy's doing is just like throwing the best version of the tantalizing stuff that we've seen previously from him. Yeah. He's just honing it in. So I want to give like 80 to 90% of the credit to the athletes. I want to give 80 to 90% of the credit to Tong and McLean for leveling up like this. Yeah. But shout out to Mets for pushing them in the right direction. I want to start with McLean because this guy, 5 starts at a 1.37 ERA in Double-A Binghamton. What does he do in his first start in the International League? 7 scoreless, 7 punch-outs, no walks. But maybe the number that intrigues me the most, like 0 walks is obviously the one that fires me up. He scattered 7 hits across 7 innings. And you could say, wow, like that could be better. He could have surrendered 3 or 4 hits and it would have been great. For me, I thought it was really cool that he didn't allow a run to cross by scattering 7 hits. Like, there was not a single inning in his AAA debut that got away from him in the slightest.
When he had to go
to stretch, he was fine. They were like, dude, if they're all singles, oh my gosh.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
That's the thing that stands out the most to me. They were all singles, and I think only one would have qualified as a hard hit baseball. So, and this wasn't against a bad lineup. This is against a Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp lineup that has been really solid overall. I think they've cooled off a bit, but I mean, they have a lot of guys that can put together good ABs.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, man. If they're singling, like, they're running like hell right now. They might be the most prolific base stealing team in minor league baseball. So the fact that he wasn't phased in any of those innings when Jacksonville has wreaked havoc on the base paths, tip of the cap to Nolan McLean.
And I think McLean's a guy that definitely is, like Tong. I look at Tong and it's like he's just doing what he has been doing in the past even better. Whereas McLean had a full offseason to focus on just pitching, as we talked about in the past, and now has optimized all those pitch shapes to just another level. So I think that's helped him a lot too, where you have that true sweeper, and then you have that hard cutter, and then you have even the changeup that he's been mixing in here, and then you have this 2-plane sweeping curveball that's nasty, and the fastball has been really effective for him as well as a pitch that can get ground balls and whiff at the top. And the way that he's blending a 56% ground ball rate with a 28% strikeout rate, like, you're rarely going to get beat. And I look at that side of things. It's not just that AAA debut. He's allowed 27 hits this year, only 5 for extra bases, no home runs. So, yeah, you can have your singles. He's going to get his ground ball and potentially roll a double play. And, maybe you string together 3 singles off of him. It's going to be hard because opponents are still only hitting 227 against him. But that 269 slug is what really stands out to me. It's hard to get the ball in the air off of him. And when you do, it's hard to hit it really with any authority either.
I'm bought in on this guy. I'm bought in on this guy being a mid-rotation arm for them actually pretty darn soon.
Pretty soon. And the question then becomes, this was Ryan Finkelstein, our managing editor, just baseball texted me. They said, at what point does he pass Brandon Sproat? And I mean, it's a conversation because all of a sudden the floor with McLean just becomes really hard to deny. That said, Sproat has been solid in AAA this year and is settling in. He's only really had, I would say, one bad outing this year, aside from the first outing. But he has been much better. We were talking about when is he going to kind of show the flashes that we saw in Double-A at the AAA level. He's starting to do that. But McLean, like, I just might trust the stuff a little bit more. And Sproat's not striking guys out, the way that you would want to see. So I think we're a few AAA starts away from McLean passing him. And it's not as much of an indictment on Sproat. It is a little bit, but it's more of just how damn good McLean has been.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, it's really cool to watch. Tong, on the other hand, 6 starts in Double A Binghamton, 28 innings. He's punched out 51, and he's got a 2.57 ERA. He's striking out 16 and a half hitters per 9 innings. 51 punch-outs in 28 innings. He's walking a good number of people, but like it's because of the fastball's up, and he's just missing the top of the strike zone 4 times. This is like unreal what he's doing because it's flick the glove forward. I'm going to strike you out. It's not I'm going to get you to whiff once and then pop it up. It's I'm going to get you to whiff 3 times.
45% strikeout rate's ridiculous. And this is another guy that's blending the strikeout rate with the ground ball rate. 45% strikeout rate, 60% ground ball rate. No one's hitting the ball in the air. And if they do, it's probably not a hit. You thought the stat was crazy with McLean. 3 extra base hits against Tong. Yes, 1 homer, but 1 homer and 2 doubles. That is it. And the only homer was hit by Hendrik Pinango, of course it was. And it was a 94 mile per hour home run. So, like, it is outrageous. Now, the command is still the question. And what's crazy is, he's flicking the glove up and dominating with the fastball at 60% usage. That fastball now at 95 miles per hour with the characteristics is a plus heater. The changeup off of it is outrageous as well. And I think that is where he's leveled up. Where the changeup, because of the tunnel that it creates, because of the fastball carry, and then having that pitch just fade off of it, and that over-the-top kind of slingshot delivery, you can't see it out of the hand. What's fascinating is that changeup strike rate's 70%. The strike rate of his fastball, curveball, cutter, and slider is 61%. And that is not sustainable. Like, he's going to need to get that up there, and that's still the concern for me. But what we saw was when he is in the strike zone, he's as good as anybody in the minor leagues. And that's why he went 6 2/3 perfect with 13 strikeouts, because for the first time this year, he pounded the strike zone. It was 99 pitches, 61 strikes. And that, even then, like, that's not even really pounding it. Just for his standards, a little bit better. I honestly take that back. It's not really pounding the strike zone at all. But he filled it up with his fastball in that start. It was a 66% strike rate on the fastball. So that was up 5-6% from what he's normally doing. The changeup strike rate, 8 of the 9 he threw were strikes. It was funny that they didn't give him the one more batter to finish that perfect game. Can't go to 100 pitches.
You thought it was funny? I thought it was terrible that they didn't give him that extra batter. He was an out away. It was a 7-inning game. Yeah. If it was a 9-inning game, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's like there's no point. But it was just 1 more out.
It's one more out.
Like, I give him 1 more batter.
I didn't watch the broadcast. They had to show him getting taken out, and he had to be.
He was like laughing. He was
laughing.
He was just kind of like whatever about it. I think. Like, what are you gonna do?
Like, he was an out away from a perfect game in the minor leagues.
Yeah. Well, it would have been the shortened one. What did they used to call it? An honorable achievement or something like that.
Yeah,
notable achievement.
Bumgarner 7-inning no hitter. Yeah, I thought that was that was like mean to Bumgarner, but also because it was Madison Bumgarner, it was fine by me not throwing in a no hitter.
Last 3 starts, 14 2/3 innings, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 31 strikeouts.
Yeah,
that's a negative .01 FIP.
Sure.
Yeah, that's pretty good, right?
Edwin Diaz, I think, had a negative FIP in 2022.
Yeah.
That's the only negative FIP that I've ever seen.
A guy that was allowed to go the full distance here was J.R. Ritchie. And J.R. Ritchie for the Braves. We were talking about him when we did the Braves top prospects, and it's like, how is this guy so effective when the stuff just like doesn't look that great? It's fine, but it's just not great. And the answer is sequencing, some deception, and just working. Like, execution is just fantastic. Last 3 starts for him in high A. He's 21 years old, by the way, and he just got promoted to double A. That was broken by Jeff Ponce at Baseball America. 20 2/3 innings, no earned runs, 2 walks, 21 strikeouts. It's a really fun watch to see Ritchie do his thing, because it's all 4 quadrants. Everything works off of itself really well. And the fastball is now up. And then that's a big part of it too. He was 92 miles per hour. Remember, he was coming off of Tommy John. So velo has come back now that he's to the 2-year removed mark from that TJ. Now the fastball is averaging 94. When you're averaging 94 with decent characteristics, that's going to help a lot, especially when you execute the way that he does. And the fastball, the slider, the changeup, the sinker, those are all filling up the zone at a high clip. He's a 68% overall strike rate this year. Again, it's just been really fun to watch him drill his spots and have everything work off of itself really well.
What's your nickname for him?
The executioner.
Yeah, great. Roll with it. Print the
Yeah,
t-shirts now.
I'm rolling with it. He's the executioner, not because he's like killing people and put them out of their misery, because he's executing so darn well. So 21 years old, another Braves arm that's just high floor. That's most likely going to be in the back end of a rotation, eating innings. And last time out, man, 9 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 1 walk, 9 Ks. Double A is going to be a really fun test, because that's where, if you have average stuff, you can really see if it's going to play up enough. And I think with the way that he executes, I think it will.
Yeah. He reminds me a lot of Gunnar Hoglund, who I just saw debut with the Athletics.
I like that.
Like nothing really makes sense in terms of him getting outs. It's like, oh, the stuff is okay, but the execution is there. Like Gunnar Hoglund went, 6 shutout innings or 6 innings, a 1-run ball in his big league debut in Miami. I'm blanking on the exact line, but he did it, and I was just floored by the level of execution there. I was floored by fastball in all 4 quadrants, the off-speed dropping into all 4 quadrants. It's a fun game to watch. It feels like he's 30 years old, but he's 21.
Exactly, which is why I think he's going to have a nice big league career. He's got the slider down to the glove side, the changeup down and arm side, then the four-seamer up and glove side, and then the sinker in versus right-handed hitters. He's got everything he needs to get you out, and that is a testament to, again, the Braves are really good at getting guys to work east-west, whether it's even adjusting the setup on the rubber, whatever it may be. We talked about that when we broke down that system, and I think J.R. Ritchie is definitely tapping into that and just getting better and better. And then, of course, the velocity getting up helps as well.
For sure.
We're going to get into some hot hitters to wrap up here, but before that, our last break.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. I've got a list of 10 to 15 hitters, and I want a 1 or 2 sentence reaction to the hottest hitters in minor league baseball in the month of May. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with a guy that was traded from the Reds to the Dodgers. Mike Sirota, in his last 9 games, has 16 hits, including 4 homers, a double, and a triple. He's walked 7 times, driven in 12 over his last 9 games. So in 43 plate appearances, he's slashing .444, .535, .861.
Really impressive. The power uptick is what has me excited, because he is pulverizing the baseball. And that was kind of the question, how much power would be there. But it is low A. He is a college bat. So I do want to see if he can do it, in high A and double. But the raw EVs has to have Dodgers fans excited.
Brock Wilken, in his last 10 games with AA Biloxi, the Brewers prospect, hitting .382. In 10 games, he has 3 doubles, 5 homers. He's driven in 11. He's OPSing .1388 during this stretch.
I'm just happy for him. He's such a nice guy, and last year kind of got away from him, got hit in the face as well too, and he's still just 22. So the fact that he's doing this in AA, I think is really encouraging. EVs are up. Chase is at 15%. He's going to punch. He's going to be a 3 true outcome hitter. But the fact that the EVs are up as a guy that's going to lift consistently, I think that's a really good sign.
Cags, 11 games in the month of May, .375 with 5 homers, 14 driven in, 10 punch-outs, and 44 plate appearances. He's slugging .750 with an .1182 OPS.
When do we get to see him in triple? That's
now.
They said they're not in a rush to get him there. Why? The only question with Cags at this point is the approach, and it's gotten better. But where's the place where your approach will get exploited the most? AAA, besides the big leagues, of course. AAA is where you're going to get those big league arms. I'm not worried about Cags being able to hit good stuff. He's B swings. I posted a C swing the other day where he went 105 the other way. There's no question about his ability to hit good stuff. The question is his ability to recognize stuff and good stuff. Let's find out what he can do in AAA. AA is too easy for.
10 games in the month of May for the Dodger prospect that you keyed me in on a couple weeks ago, Eduardo Quintero with Loe Rancho Cucamonga. Quintero in his last 10 games has 15 hits, including 2 doubles, 2 triples, 3 homers. He's also 3 for 4 in the stolen base department with a 1201 OPS over his last 49 plate appearances.
A little concerned about the end zone whiff, but the another guy that's just getting to that power more consistently than he was last year. Still just 19 years old, super patient, hitting the ball in the air consistently to all fields, and he can play a good center field. So you can kind of palette some swing and miss. He started off really slow in the swing and miss department. Has got the strikeout rate since then. So I think that's really positive to see from a guy that, is going to be 19 for pretty much the entire regular season.
Another Dodger prospect, Josue DePaulo with high A Great Lakes, hitting 372 over his last 11 games with 4 doubles, 3 homers, 8 driven in, and he's got 3 bags in the month of May with an 1123 OPS.
It's crazy. Him and Zaire Hope might be as fun of a duo as we've got in minor league baseball right now. And I think DePaula may end up being ready for Double A sooner rather than later. He's now, with this hot stretch, walked as much as he has struck out on the season. 24 walks, 24 strikeouts. The swing decisions are phenomenal. He's getting into his power now, which we kept saying, like, the second he starts getting into that raw power and starts converting into game power, like, it's going to get scary. It's starting to get scary for pitchers out there.
No doubt. Jefferson Rojas, the Cubs prospect. High A South Bend. Rojas, over his last 9 games, has 14 hits. He's hitting .412 with 3 homers, a double, a triple. He's driven in 12, and he's 3 for 3 in the stolen base department. Last 9 games at 1240 OPS.
Remember, he's super young. He's been promoted aggressively. So this is his second taste of high A. Really, like, got a little bit of a taste before, but it's really his second season at high A. And he's just turned 20, like less than a month ago. He's settling in. The bat to ball is fantastic. It's 90% in zone contact rate. We picked him as one of our bounce back guys going into this year for a reason. He's a very good hitter and is starting to shine through now. It's been cool to see him get going here. And also 4 home runs in the last 11 games.
Yep.
That's pretty damn good.
Yep. Braden Montgomery got the bump to high A Winston-Salem, the White Sox prospect who was acquired in the Crochet deal. 10 games in high A in the month of May, hitting .382 with 5 doubles, 3 homers, 10 driven in, a 1244 OPS.
He's torching balls.
Killing.
The raw power is shining through. He's getting into it. And he's putting the ball on the ground a little bit. But in this hot streak, I think that's been the big difference was, I thought, okay, the ground ball rate was higher in low A. Like, is it gonna creep up even higher in high A? No. He found something in high A where he's actually elevating more consistently. And when you've got that borderline plus raw power, and all of a sudden you cut that ground ball rate by 5, 6, 7%, you're going to see that power start to really shine through. But he's a guy that we had some questions like, how consistently is he going to hit? And I think if you're a White Sox fan, you've got to be thrilled with everything you're seeing since he got to the high A level. He
100%.
is, I think, more multi-hit games than he has strikeouts so far in high A, or something pretty close to that. It's been fun to see. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 6 games are multi-hit games.
Wow. Yeah, 6 punch-outs right now. He's got 13 hits with high A Winston-Salem. Couple more for you. We talked about Bo Davidson last week. San Francisco Giants prospect in high A Eugene. 9 games, hitting .375 with 3 triples, 2 doubles, and a homer. He's driven in 9, and he's 3 for 3 in the stolen base department.
I'm telling you, man, this guy might have figured something out. He's got the lower half and upper body synced up a lot more, cleaned up some of the swing mechanics, and is a very unique prospect that didn't have as many reps as I think a lot of other guys that would have been drafted out of college. So I'm very pumped at what we've seen from him, and the defense looks like it's getting better in center field. Another guy that's stringing together a lot more multi-hit games than you'd expect from somebody with a below-average hit tool going into the year. Strikeout rate's been low. It's been fun to watch this guy play, and I think he's going to hit his way into Double A by the time we get to June or at least July.
Mariner in Triple A, Cole Young, 10 games, 14 hits, a .359 batting average in May, 4 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, driven in 6. He's struck out just 4 times in 44 plate appearances and has a .1099 OPS.
It's awesome to see because he started pretty slow. I think first 26 games he was at a .564 OPS, and again, you're getting acclimated to AAA. He's still just 21 years old, and you're just seeing him settle in because he's going to be approach, bat to ball. But the EVs for him have been up too, which is a guy that he's not going to hit the ball incredibly hard, but for him to even get that up a tick or 2, it's going to make a big difference for a guy that's very contact oriented and is going to be able to draw a lot of walks too.
2 more guys for you. Number 1, Franklin Arias, the Red Sox prospect in Greenville right now, hitting .395 with 15 hits in 9 games in the month of May. 3 doubles, 2 homers, driven in 7. Cade just 3 times in 43 plate appearances, has a .1097 OPS.
This kid's a monster, man. He's gonna be on our top 100 update, and he's gonna fly up the rankings, I think, quickly. He's 19 years old, and he doesn't turn 20 until November. And the fact that this is another guy that hasn't blinked since getting promoted to high A where again, it was promoted on the 29th. He's put 11 games and 15 hits since getting promoted. Is crazy. And you look at the numbers on the year, 91% in-zone contact rate for this guy, who, again, when he was signed, was viewed as a glove-first shortstop. So this is a really, really impressive player that I think the Red Sox, like, this is their next big name, I think, in the farm system. By big name, is he going to be Roman Anthony? No, but I think this is their next buzzy top 50 prospect overall that, you start looking at and saying, hey, I don't think we even want to move him in big trade talks. Again, if you have a Crochet type of opportunity, sure. But Arias is kind of getting to a point there where you're looking at him as another, blue chip building block as he's, again, just 19 for the entirety of the season.
Last one for you. Throw the U's up. Yohandy Morales, 10 games, hitting 357. This guy has 7 doubles in his last 10 games in Double-A. He's always been able to hit, man.
He's hit the ball hard. He's always been able to hit the ball hard. The mechanics, we talked about it, I think, when we did the national system at some points last year. Just the moves were kind of loud, big barrel tip. He still kind of has that, but he's quieted it down some and really simplified to the point where it's like, you're 6'4", 220. You don't need to have a ton going on there. Just let your natural strength and bat speed do its thing. And he's still more of an inside-out guy. Like, a lot of it's going to go the other way, but he is starting to pull the ball a little bit more, and I think that's allowed him to get into that power more. Also, a guy that was chasing a bit more and has cut that down. He's going to swing and miss, but if he can get into his power enough, this is a guy that could at least be a big league bat. And then I wanted to throw in one more name because I've loved him since the Rockies drafted him. And
I'm throwing in one more after your one more.
He deserves some positive. The Rockies deserve some positive PR. No, they don't actually deserve it, but their fans do. Cole Carrick.
Yeah, sure.
Cole Carrick has been awesome. And it's been cool to see him just honestly take Double-A by storm. 3 home runs in his last 3 games. And this is a dude that I think if you end up getting him up to Triple-A Albuquerque, he's going to start swinging it a little bit better too. Chase is a little high. The whiff is a little bit high, but he's just been productive. And just always excited to see Cole Carrick swinging it well.
This is a full season shout. This is not a hot sheet shout, but if you don't know the name Carson McCusker and you find yourself watching some St. Paul Saints baseball, I would highly recommend you do that. He's 6'8", 250 pounds, rock solid muscle. Like, he actually kind of looks like Judge.
Yeah.
And Carson McCusker in 33 games with AAA St. Paul, hitting 333 with 8 doubles, 10 homers, 30 driven in, and a 1058 OPS.
This is another short platoon guy that, like, maybe he just gets to that juice enough against lefties and makes it work. I mean, the power is, he already has 3 114s this year and 2 115s. So, like, it's potentially like 80 raw. Let's just see what happens. So I hope he gets a shot this year. But yeah, McCusker is a guy that would come up in the queries last year at points where it's just like, let's see, batted balls north of 115. McCusker had a few of those, and he already has a few right at 115 this year as well. That's a fun watch.
Baseball is great because Peyton Eels and Carson McCusker are teammates.
Yeah, what do we have, a 1.5 differential there?
I think so. I think it's at least a whole foot.
It's definitely more, I think. Eels, we need to get him back in the lineup soon. I know he was banged up, but like he I think he talked about it when we had him on the show. Just he was dealing with something lower body. I don't know if it was that again, but I would just love to see Eels back in the lineup because, again, he's so much fun. They need to have those guys back to back too. That would be really fun to see. Also weird, I think, for the pitcher to deal with. But 5'6" Eels, 6'8" for McCusker. So yeah, pretty crazy there. That'll do it for this episode. We will be doing a draft check-in later in this week, and also Blue Jays top prospects. That probably won't be an episode for this week, but we will have that list out this week. So keep an eye out for that. Jack's showing you, if you're watching on YouTube, the beautiful view here at Wrigley Field. Look at that grass, just so well manicured out there. That's a top-notch field, man.
It's the friendly confines, man.
It's amazing. It's amazing. But we'll be talking draft with our guys on the clock. Tyler Jennings is going to be joining us, but we look forward to talking then. Listen to the Marlins radio call with Jack throughout the week. We had 2 more games against the Cubs at Wrigley.
Me and Rod.